The Department has just said Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione. He's the man charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a New York.
By the way, Luigi Mangione's GoFundMe or whatever that is, last I checked, it was almost three quarters of a million. And that money is not just coming from people on the left. It's not just coming from, as Chatter would say, libtards. No, it's across the political spectrum because everyone is getting fucked under healthcare.
New York City Street back in December. With us now, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Savalas. Danny, good morning. So what is exactly the Justice Department saying, and what are they basing it on?
Well, one of the crimes Mangione is charged with is murder with a firearm, which is a capital offense under federal law. So the death penalty is a possibility. But in federal death penalty cases, it is a two-stage process. The jury not only decides guilt, but then they are the ones who ultimately decide whether the defendant lives or is put to death. It is not the judge that hands out the sentence. That's why death penalty juries have to be qualified, and it's a much more onerous process to seat a capital jury because you have to ask them questions, difficult questions like, if the death penalty is on the table, can you actually sentence someone to death? So this is a very big decision by the federal government, maybe not a surprising one, but given how rarely over the years the federal government has sought the death penalty, it is certainly a significant decision by Pam Bondi.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, Danny. I mean, what cases have there been where the federal government has been requesting the death penalty? And I'm thinking.
So if you do not think that this is politically motivated, if you do not think that this has been turned into a circus because the political class, because the corporate class, because healthcare executives are really scared that people are pissed off, that there was a lot of support. There was a lot of support after this, and there were a lot of people who were like, you will not catch me shedding any tears for an individual who made millions of dollars from people's suffering and from death. This is the guy who approved an AI program that had a 90% error rate. 90% error rate. And it mostly denied claims of the elderly. So the response after the shooting of Brian Thompson sent a pretty clear message of how people in this country feel about healthcare. And here's the thing, okay? You want to prosecute someone for committing a murder. Okay, following the laws. And yet these are the same laws, this is the same country that allows people like Brian Thompson to profit off many, 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 many more deaths. Tens of thousands of deaths, profit off of people's suffering. This is what we refer to as social murder, where that's all fine and dandy. You can make millions of dollars as a healthcare CEO. You can make billions of dollars as a healthcare company. So where's the prosecution of this? Where is the justice there? I think, what was it? United Healthcare made like $16 billion in just profit last year or something like that. Just insanity.
More than one person having been killed. It is unusual.
Yes, and it's encouraged. Yes.
I believe that the most recent death penalty execution in the federal system was carried out in 2021. And that was related to a crime that was committed, just to give you some context, in 1996. So that's how long death penalty cases can take. And at the federal level, it's interesting because, states like New York may not.
Like, that should show you, too, the fact that the last time was 4 years or so ago, and how it's pretty rare that the DOJ specifically seeks the death penalty. I mean, This is not something that happens often, and it is so clear how politically motivated this is, that they want to make an example out of Luigi Mangione because they are terrified of the anger in this country towards the healthcare industry, the anger in this country towards billionaires, towards the corporate class and their political allies.
Not have the death penalty, but technically every state has, and I'm using air quotes, the death penalty because they could be charged with a federal crime in that state and put to death, even if the state itself does not have the death penalty, as is the case with New York.
I think there was a piece in here. The Trump administration's bloodthirsty call to execute Luigi Mangione is the exact wrong way to deal with Luigi Mangione. Oh, by the way, totally missed this, but my wonderful third cousin Graham Wood of The Atlantic, of course, had written a piece that was in defense of the healthcare industry, that was chastising the anger that people feel. Yeah, same guy who wrote that you can legally murder children in the context of Palestinian children being murdered. Those are legally murdered children. Yeah. That's the cousin who that my haters online said that I was racist towards my brother. Yeah, my cousin brother. It's like, I don't know, that sounds like some White Lotus shit. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Luigi Mangione is alleged to have gunned down healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on the streets of New York, and irrespective of the potential motivation, it's the sort of thing that needs to be punished in a society governed by laws. If we can acknowledge that, we can also acknowledge that anyone surprised that the 26-year-old has become a folk hero is fooling themselves. Let me be clear. Nobody wants to be at a point where someone is driven, and that someone wasn't Luigi. He didn't do it. Where's the evidence? But someone was driven to kill a healthcare CEO for his role in the extremely predatory healthcare system. What we want is a healthcare system that provides healthcare coverage free at the point of service for everybody who lives here. We want universal healthcare. We want healthcare to be treated as a human right. So it is not a good measure of society when we have gotten to a point that an individual murders a healthcare CEO. To be a millionaire healthcare baron is to be in contention for being the most hated man in America. We live in a country where there's a decent chance your bank account will get wiped out after a freak car accident. It's not popular to be profiting from that. And so anyone in touch with the precariousness of being alive in America in 2025 can relate to the sympathies thrust upon Mangione by a whole swath of Americans. But Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi are not typical Americans, and for my money, that's why they made such a show of threatening Mangione with the death penalty today. So here's Bondi. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children. Do you know what the other thing too that is such a double standard is, like, his kids are teenagers. They're like, whatever, 16, 17. And like, they're young children, right? But an actual child in a place like Gaza gets referred to as a young adult. It's like this young adult who is 5 years old. It's the opposite of Jonah Platt. You know, Jonah Platt, my dad had to leave my family. Jonah Platt, who's almost 40 years old, 40-year-old baby boy. Like, the opposite treatment is given to immigrants, children of immigrants, Palestinians. It's like, no, those are all adults. Those are all young adults. Not even, young woman. Hind Rajab, who was referred to in the media as a young woman. You just hate white kids. I'm going to blow your mind for a second. I am half white, and my kids are white. My kids with Will Neff are white children. So no, I don't hate white kids. I myself, growing up, was a white kid. Half white. I was a white kid. My kid is, Farley is white. Farley is my white child. Man, I just wish, like, I know that there's dumbass chatters. I know that will never change. But I really wish, like, I know who these chatters are. They are not rich people living in mansions who are like, oh my God, Jesus, our way of life is being threatened. I know that. Like, I just wish you would understand that the things I'm saying are advocating for you having a better life. Like, I wish you would just, I wish you could get it through your thick skulls. And it's like, if you live in the United States of America, you want to suffer, you want to keep suffering, you want to worry about what will happen to you if you get in a car accident, if you get diagnosed with some illness. Like, you're totally fine, you're happy with knowing that you could be sent into debt that you will never get out of if you are not already in debt. And maybe you don't even have health care because you can't afford it, because it's not tied to your employment. Maybe you lost your job. I don't know, man. I'm just like, people are so blind. They're just so blinded by what? What are you blinded by? Why can't you see that I want your life to be better? That's it. I do. Even when you're being a dumbass in chat. I understand, but I could not kill a person over it. No, I get it. And I am not advocating for murder. In fact, I said it is a bad sign in our society that it has gotten to this point that someone did kill a healthcare CEO. Like, it's amazing that it actually hasn't happened before. That this is not a common thing. Because people are fully aware of healthcare CEOs making millions of dollars off of denying them care. But the fact that we have gotten to this point and that so many people across the political aisle were expressing similar sentiments, where they were sharing stories about how United Healthcare had denied them or a loved one care, that they had to watch their father die in pain, and how, you know, they spent their final years, months, etc., fighting the healthcare industry. People who were expressing that no, they don't think murder is good, but that Brian Thompson is also a murderer. That these healthcare executives, that they murder a lot more people. They are responsible for many, many deaths, and they make a lot of money off of it. But in America, instead of addressing the issue, they go after the person that it breaks. Which is, yes, they want to make an example of Luigi Mangione because they are trying to shut down this anger. They are trying to send a message while continuing to profit off and therefore why they allow themselves to be lobbied by these healthcare companies and will not at all even talk about a goddamn public option. I mean, health, like, you guys, two incredibly, incredibly vital issues: climate change and healthcare. Climate change is the number one existential issue that we are facing. And these were topics that were barely a footnote in the last presidential election. We went from, in 2016 and 2020, because Bernie Sanders was running in the Democratic primary, and has been talking about Medicare for all for literally decades. Healthcare is a human right. And it forced other candidates to have to talk about healthcare. And even if they didn't fully say Medicare for all, at least they were talking about healthcare as a right, as something that we need to fix in this country. And then we barely got any conversation 4 years later in 2024. My dad was starved to death in hospital while in a coma because we couldn't afford pain meds or food for him. It's real, folks. Yeah, and my heart goes out to you. And I understand that this is horrifyingly a common reality. This is a shared reality. The healthcare industry has destroyed so many people's lives and continues to. And these healthcare companies make billions of dollars in profit. They are incentivized to deny you care, even when you are paying sometimes hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars a month. So if he released, would that not give other victims of this the wrong message, i.e. go shoot a healthcare CEO? Look, nobody wants to it's not that they're, I mean, maybe, I don't know, suddenly people will be shooting healthcare CEOs because they're like, fix the fucking healthcare system or we're taking you guys out. No, but the main thing is that also, do not Fed post. Do not Fed post. The main thing is that they want to make an example of Luigi because, yes, they want to decentivize others who have been burned by the healthcare system, who have gotten to the point, who are at the end of the road, at the end of their rope. And the only thing that they feel that they can do to send a message, to do something, is to kill a healthcare CEO, to have people talking about the healthcare industry. So it's that. And it's also just more broadly trying to regain control, trying to regain the upper hand. These politicians and their corporate allies, they saw the response to the shooting of Brian Thompson, and it terrified them because here's the thing. You can only squeeze people so long and so much before they fully break, before there is nothing left to squeeze. And we are currently in the stage of capitalism that is late stage capitalism. And the economic gap between the poor and the working class has only gotten wider and wider. That 90% of 90% of wealth has moved to the very tippy top, to a very small group of people. Yeah, you can't say killing is wrong when the guy's up for the death penalty. They're like, killing is bad, which is why we're going to kill this guy. Yep, we're going to send the message that killing is wrong by killing this man. But legally. Legally, just in the same way that healthcare companies legally murder tens of thousands of people by denying them care. Appreciate you speaking out so much. I keep having my Medicaid shut off and I'm in danger of getting disability taken. So just really appreciate people fighting. Yeah, this is an issue that's only gotten worse and worse as these companies have realized how much money that they can make off of squeezing the last drops out of people. It's the suffering before that brought this, similar October 7th, that didn't happen out of nothing. Right. And that's why I was like, okay, so you want to We live in a society. You want to live in a society governed by laws. But what about a society, that same society whose laws allow people to go hungry, to go unhoused, to die because they've been denied health care? What kind of fucking society is that? Laws that protect police officers who shoot and murder civilians. Laws that make it so you can't protest genocide. If you are here on a visa or a green card, then you will be deported. Laws that make it so that we treat immigrants, the backbone of this country, as criminals, that we treat them inhumanely. Laws that allow these companies and their allies to make a lot of money when they are already wealthy beyond belief. Make money off of people's suffering. What kind of society is that? Laws that allow for your federal government to revoke your citizenship and visas. Yeah. Crime is legal for the rich. Yes. Yep. Okay, so after Pam Bondi said, after careful consideration, what kind of society celebrates cold-blooded murder in the streets? A society that has been so broken. A society that is being crushed underneath its systems, which have devastated the majority of people who live in it. A society where healthcare is not a human right. Where even people who have healthcare are still dying because they're being denied care. They're leaving behind their families. They're leaving their families behind with a ton of debt. So that's the kind of society. That's the thing, right? A lot of people just look at the effect, right? They look at the effect. Somebody murdered Brian Thompson, but they don't look at the cause. They don't look at the root. They don't look at where this is coming from. Do you think it's just because murder's cool? That this just happened in a vacuum? So anyway, Bondi went on to characterize the crime as an act of political violence, like what they're doing to Luigi isn't political violence, and made the somewhat flat assertion that bystanders near the scene were put at grave risk of death. Trump has made a lot of noise about reinstating the use of the federal death penalty, and it's not really a surprise to anyone that his administration would invoke it here. But by releasing such a haughty statement, which defines Mangione as a political dissident and leans the full weight of the state on his punishment, Trump is showing once again that his populist instincts are in decline. The harsh punishment of Mangione might be in keeping with his chest thumping on crime, but it's also bad politics. That's clear to pretty much everyone outside of Capitol Hill. Empathizing with Mangione is simply not uncommon, nor is it exclusive to anti-establishment lefties who relish any evidence of an armed revolt against the entrenched oligarchy, especially when it comes from someone iconoclastically hot. Case in point, Mangione's official legal defense fund has accumulated over $700,000 and ticks higher every day. Really, you see the same compassion for his plight across the entire ideological spectrum, including some of the most partisan arenas on the web. Yeah, remember when Ben Shapiro uploaded a YouTube video titled, "The Evil Revolutionary Left Cheers Murder." The evil revolutionary left cheers murder. And I'm going to tell you why they're wrong. And then in his comments, and this wasn't just a couple comments, It was so many of the comments. Like, right winger here, you're wrong, Ben. This man denied 35% of claims. One was my dead parents' heart surgery we couldn't afford. He opted to die instead of give us the debt. I'm a conservative and I have been since I was a teenager. I will shed no tears for this man. Wow, maybe I've been wrong this entire time, Ben. I don't think you actually care about us. I think you just want our money. I think you want us to hate each other. Boom, right there. That is called class consciousness. That is called understanding class struggle, understanding that elites like Ben Shapiro, that they profit off of you turning around and pointing the finger, being angry at not the corporate class, the billionaire class, the political class, but at one another. Pointing around and saying, oh yeah, it's those damn lefties on Twitter who are keeping me from a healthy a life where I'm provided healthcare, where I am not, having to forego dinner in order to pay rent. Quote from the fantastic movie Madawan, there's no black and white, there's no right and left, there's only those who work and those who do not. That sentiment pairs nicely with a poll by Emerson College that went around last year, finding that 41% of college students deemed the killing acceptable. Or the one from the Krista, if dumbass isn't here, just keep chirping. If they're just being obnoxious, you can time them out. Or the one from the University of Chicago, in which 7 in 10 Americans placed at least a moderate responsibility for Thompson's death on the healthcare industry. Thank you, dear. Yeah, once somebody is just now being so obtuse and is distracting from what I am talking about here, then they get put onto timeout. Then you gotta go into timeout. The debate has made its way into the orbit of Joe Rogan, who, if you remember, may have helped tilt the election towards Trump. His take was that private healthcare was a dirty, dirty business. Meanwhile, Bill Burr, a notoriously unaligned stand-up comedian, has been far more assertive. He advocates for a free Luigi, every chance he gets. Again, none of this should be shocking. This country is locked into a spiraling, seemingly irreversible decline, and regardless of who you voted for, liberals and conservatives alike are vulnerable to the elemental dissatisfaction such a status quo can inspire. People are angry. That is the number one reason Trump is in the White House and why it's so curious that he's unable to read the room, especially when previously it was his only political talent. That's not to say it would have been particularly shrewd for the president to have wandered into the Rose Garden and started babbling about what a very fine person Luigi Mangione is. But the administration's determined to make Mangione's potential capital punishment a nakedly political issue in a way that appears to deliberately run contrary to the collective angst of his coalition. This has become a pattern. You can sense the same dissonance in the way this administration has propagandized its tariffs, which thus far have been messaged with the idea that patriotic citizens will happily swallow the economic turbulence ahead. Yeah, as like one of the big issues of the last election was my eggs cost $1 million. Grocery prices. And it's like, don't worry, things will be better, even if they're bad right now. I mean, Elon Musk, when the Trump administration first took over, didn't he come out and he was like, yeah, it's going to suck, right? Like he basically was like, you're going to feel the pain, but it will be good. It's good for you. It's good for you. It's like all of our mothers who would say beauty is pain as they ripped a hairbrush through your head. Musk said that before the election. Yes. I mean, this has been said repeatedly by Musk and Trump. Like, some of you may die, but that's a risk that I am willing to take. Yes. Many of you will suffer. Many will die, but I am willing to take that risk because I care about you so much. So much. Never mind, of course, that the single most salient issue in the 2024 election was the skyrocketing cost of groceries, housing, and yes, healthcare. The people of this country want to live with dignity, and more importantly, they want those responsible for their suffering to pay. Healthcare is a human right. But thus far, the primary target of Trump's wrath appears to be Americans themselves. The root of this contradiction might be pretty straightforward. Trump is extremely wealthy, as are his benefactors. In the huddles at Mar-a-Lago, perhaps the only proposal on the table is to rain hell on Mangione. Might work in the short term. Might work in the short term, but the animosity remains. Someday soon, Americans are going to need a good reason to stop feeling so angry. If Trump doesn't give them one, who knows who they'll be sympathizing with next. Wonder Gal, thank you for the gifted sub. Ahem. Luigi, he didn't do shit.